Hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you don't know me, my name is Ayn, and today we are going to talk about some practical tips to negotiate your salary. Before I share my top tips with you, please make sure you hit that subscribe button, like this video, and leave me a comment with any questions or any suggestions for future videos. I would be really appreciative. But let's get right into it. Negotiating a salary can be so difficult and kind of stressful as well. Now, my background actually as a sales manager equips me really well to have negotiations about money. I don't really find them stressful, and I picked up some tricks that I think are going to be helpful for anyone who doesn't really know where to start or who wants to make sure that they give the absolute best shot in that salary review that you're going to have coming up. This is by no means an exhaustive list of things that you should be doing when you're asked for a salary review, but if you want that, let me know in the comments and I'll make sure to give you more salary tips and salary advice in my next videos. The first tip that I want to mention is to plan your salary review at the right time. Chances are that if you work in a corporate environment or even in a startup, to be honest, there are going to be some times of the year where salary reviews are actually planned overall. What you do not want to be in the position of doing it is to ask for a salary review at a time where the company can't really commit to it because of various financial goals or just different reasons. What I would suggest if your salary review isn't coming up for, let's say, another 6 months, is that you take a moment to really think about what is it that you want to ask, and you start those very subtle conversations with your manager in your one-to-one. Preparing your manager for that conversation is just as important as planning it and putting it in the calendar. It is important that your manager doesn't feel ambushed, which actually leads me very nicely into tip number 2, which is make sure that your manager knows that you are going to be wanting to discuss your salary. There is nothing worse than getting pulled into a meeting and not knowing what the meeting is about and feeling like someone is trying to get some kind of information out of you without having been able to prepare. That is true for many things, but particularly for salary reviews. Once you have identified the best time to place your salary review in the calendar, make sure you tell your manager your next catch up and that you will provide an agenda for both of you to discuss your salary and your progression. That will make sure that your manager is not going to be feeling ambushed or unprepared, and they're going to be able to come to that review hopefully with an open mind and perhaps even with some solutions to discuss at the review. Once the time comes and it's the day of your review, what you want to be able to do is to pitch yourself. You have to effectively sell yourself again to your manager. And the reason why I say again is because what I would recommend is to do something that I in the past didn't do, but I think it would have actually made a big difference. And that is to actually talk to your manager as a well-rounded professional and explain again all of the reasons why you are great at your job, why you went above and beyond your job description and your responsibilities, your amazing results, but also your previous experience. This, for me, it's a missing piece in so many salary conversations. The person that you have in front of you might have managed you for a few years, or it could even just be a few months. But I can assure you that very few managers will actually remember what your previous experience was. But that experience that you have done and you have had before you joined that company and that role is absolutely fundamental and should be taken into account when discussing your progression and certainly when discussing a salary review. The worst thing that can happen is you go in just with your results in the current company, your manager sees them, thinks maybe they're good, and nothing comes of it because actually, maybe a lot of people are doing good things, maybe it's been like a tough years. But if you come into the conversation not only sure of your results for that company, but also showing them that you have and you are bringing all this wealth of experience, then you might have a chance at actually getting a really good deal. In terms of how to do this and how to pitch yourself, my advice would be to have a presentation and make sure that you prep a little bit beforehand. If you are not very confident when presenting, that is definitely important that you try and perhaps present to a friend or to a family member in advance, or even just to yourself in your bedroom, but just give it a go so that you feel confident talking through all the points. However, and this is another tip that I would say, it is important that in the meeting you speak the language of the person that you're talking to. This is one of the biggest biggest things when you're negotiating, especially when you're negotiating money. What you want to do is reflect back the same kind of language that the person has. So you want to be able to speak the way they speak, and you want to be able to pull out and highlight the things that they will resonate with. So if your manager is somebody that absolutely loves spreadsheets, perhaps that is a way to do your pitch instead of a PowerPoint, which might be a bit better if someone is more of a visual learner. Try to have a think about the kind of like person that you have in front of you to make sure that you can make the experience really enjoyable. You want them to be engaged, and you want them to buy into the idea that progressing you is a good thing for them as well. But language, of course, is not just about how you're going to present yourself. It's also about the things that you're going to put in your presentation and in your pitch. And once again, what I want you to think about is, what are the things that your manager resonates with? Is it revenue that they work towards? What are their goals? Are they trying to increase their reach? Are they trying to improve the company culture? This will largely depend on the department that you're in and also on your responsibilities. But I would invite you to take a moment to understand, what is it that is going to make them tick? What are some of the things that you can highlight that you have done that will really make them think, I need this person and I want to keep this person and I want this person to be happy. Hence, I'm going to give them more money. And when it comes to pitching yourself, something that comes a bit unnatural to us at times is to do self-promotion and to talk about ourselves really well. So what I would suggest that you do, if you're someone that struggles with that, but even to be honest, if you're not, because it's a really good thing to have, is to get some feedback from your colleagues and cast your net as wide as possible with this. Try to get colleagues that work very closely to you on a daily basis, some colleagues that might be more senior, some colleagues that work in a different team. The more the merrier, and what you want is for them to give you some feedback that you can then use in your review to showcase to your manager how amazing you are at liaising, how good of a networker you are within the company, and also they can hear from other people's voices of your success and your amazing results. All these tips are going to help you to prepare for the review and to hopefully conduct it in a way that is confident and works for you. But one fundamental thing that you cannot forget to do is prepare that number. What is the salary that you're going to be asking your manager? In terms of how to decide that, I will probably do a different video on this, but what I would say is to make sure that you come prepared to be challenged on this. Should you ask for a salary and have your manager ask you, why are you giving that salary? The last thing you want it to happen is that you're not gonna be prepared and you're just gonna say, I just think I deserve that money. That is not an answer. It's important that you come prepared explaining where the figure comes from. Have you perhaps done some benchmarking and external research to see what your job title or the title that you're going to ask for is actually on that salary bracket? Whatever it is, make sure that you are prepared to explain that number. You really want to be very confident when you mention that. And it might not be something that comes up in the conversation, but I would say if you have scheduled a review and prepared for a review, and you have gone through all the hard work of putting together and pulling feedback and pitching yourself, then you really want to go in there with a number and you want to make space to say that number. Now, these are just some top line tips to make sure that your salary review goes well. What I would say is to not expect an answer straight away and to be ready if you do receive a negative answer to not react in a negative way. This is so important. There might be a number of reasons why a salary request gets rejected, and perhaps I'm going to tell you a little bit of a more personal story later on. But I think the important thing is that you approach this as a process and not as something that is going to happen overnight. Go in with the confidence of somebody who will get what they want, but make sure that you have a strategic approach to this. It may not happen straight away, but you have several months after to continue pressing on that and making sure that you do the things that you need to do. Which lead me nicely into the last thing that I would say is, if you do receive a negative response on this and you don't know what to do, my top tip would be to ask your manager to discuss what do you need to do to actually get to the point where they're gonna say yes to your salary request. That way you're gonna end on a high. You're going to have your manager looking at you and thinking, wow, okay, they really are committed to this. They really want to make sure that they get to this point. This is very important for them. But you're gonna do so in a professional way and in a way that is not going to prevent you from continuing asking for more money, not gonna put you in an awkward position within the company or within the team, and everyone's happy. And then by all means, go away from it and search for another job if you want to, but at least you haven't burned any bridges or come out of that with any negativity, which I think is super important. I hope this video was helpful. Please let me know in the comments down below if you like this video. Make sure to subscribe, and also let me know if you have any specific salary questions, because I honestly do love talking about negotiation and money. So if it's something that I can like share a little bit more advice on, I would be really thrilled to do it. Now go get that money.